Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Haunted Connection show. So, it's been a little while since we've done one, but we're really pleased to have our guest this evening. As you know, we are doing running up to the Parameet, which is only a week away. We
Mm.
are inviting some of the speakers along to talk with us. So, tonight we have the lovely Paul Goddard. So, welcome, Paul.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really looking forward to this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's always a pleasure.
yeah. We're gonna have a good
Thank you.
chat, see what you do, and see what you're going to do at the Paramede. Because you were there last. You joined us last year, didn't you, Paul?
I did, yes, and I completely loved it. It was wonderful, and it's great that it spread over 2 days this time, and it was a great community event for so many people in the paranormal, whether you're a believer, a skeptic, on the fence. There was something there for everybody. Every speaker was amazing, really good. I didn't quite get to see all of them, unfortunately. And also store holders, some amazing store holders.
Yeah.
Some very creative people were there. So if you didn't go last year and you are coming in this year, I know that you're in for a real treat.
Yeah. We're a
Yeah,
different
we're really
location.
looking forward to it.
Yes,
Different location this year. We thought.
yes,
Um,
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah, we've had a few issues with the location, but they're all sorted now. I'm going over actually tomorrow afternoon to confirm everything. Um,
Excellent.
so it's all good to go. So we're all excited, ain't we, Jane?
We are. It's been a year of planning, and we've been so excited for such a long time. It's just really nice that it's now sort of coming. It's coming up, and we can sort of actually do it.
So, Paul, all these people that didn't go to last year's Paramede, what did you do in
So
your tour last year?
Well, I did past life regressions. I gave a little bit of a talk and introduction, spoke a very small amount about children with spontaneous past lives, and went into the work of Dr. Ian Stevenson. People that are regulars to my works know I do like the research and finds of Dr. Ian Stevenson, and I hypnotised the whole audience to experience a past life regression. So that was lots of fun. I always enjoy seeing people enjoying the experience, being slumped over in their chairs, and then afterwards saying what they came up with, what they experienced, who they felt they were in a previous life. And some of the stories are always really quite fascinating, and I absolutely love hearing from everybody. So even if people think their past lives are quite mundane, I always like to know that people have experienced one, what it was, and also as well is that it's always important and precious to that person as well that has experienced it. So people seem to leave quite happy. We had to stop, so I'm going to put a little sign on the door this time round just to sort of say after the first 15 minutes, then once I'm doing the hypnosis, it's no more people allowed through. And there were people trying to come in throughout last time, and I've done events before where somebody's burst in, tripped over, knocked somebody else, they jumped and screamed, which has woken up about half the audience. So it's those sorts of things from past experiences that I didn't want to sort of have anything like that happen again. So, but there will be time for people to settle at the beginning. But once the hypnosis starts, then it's kind of like, those are in there sort of stay in there. So I'm not doing it to be mean, but it's just important for everybody to get the best experience
Oh, yeah,
whilst
yeah,
they're in
definitely.
hypnosis.
Yeah, definitely. But the speakers this year, the room is actually bigger this year than it was last year, so that's even better because I know for some speakers, it was a bit overstretched, weren't we, with space? I know
Yeah.
Most definitely.
We had Richard Felix last year, and it was so many people trying. Good job there wasn't a fire last year, wasn't there?
Yes, absolutely. And I stayed in. There were sort of people who actually said, look, we're packed out. Anybody want to leave? I think two got out in the end, which
Yeah.
maybe wasn't as many as people were expecting. But I was tucked in the corner, and also as well, I was talking straight after Richard. So I wanted to be there so I could go on afterwards. But also as well, it was so busy in there. I don't think I would have been able to get out even if I tried. I've had to like crowd surfed. I've
Yeah.
been crowd surfing over everybody to get out the door, I think.
One of the comments from the stall holders last year was they didn't get the chance to go and see the speakers. So what we are doing this year is actually filming. I've not told any of the speakers, so you're the first one to know this, Paul. We are actually filming all the speakers, so the stall holders can actually watch you.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a great idea. And
nobody else who's not there can watch you live. They will be able to watch you on Ghost Planet Network later on, but the stall holders can watch you live. I think that's important because the stall holders didn't stop last year.
No, they didn't. They were very busy, very, very busy indeed.
Which is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely, and everybody was so popular as well, and it was great seeing all the store holders get on well as well. Which is good. Yeah. And I'm just checking my sound again. Sorry, just gonna say I always like to check my sound. If I'm too loud or too quiet, let me know. I can boost it up because I have done these before. Listen back afterwards, and I think, blimey, I'm blowing people's eardrums off. So if my sound is a bit off, please let me know.
Yeah, you sound okay to me, and that's the important.
Good. Yeah.
So of course you do live feeds yourself, don't you, Paul? Past life regression.
Yes, I do. So I mean, a lot of I'm a hypnotherapist and NLP. I saw something said I'm live then. Hi Leah, hope you're doing good. I do NLP and hypnotherapy, and it's quite often like the classic kind of things that people think of hypnotherapists. So that's your smoking, your confidence, motivation, stress, etc., fear of frogs as well sometimes, which is an unusual one for some people, but it does happen. Fear of frogs. But I'd say the majority of my work is the past life regressions. That's kind of what I've got known for, which I'm really pleased about because I've been fascinated for ever such a long time since seeing programs about reincarnation and past lives on Strange But True and other paranormal programs that I used to watch in the late 80s, more early 90s. I remember really getting into the paranormal quite a lot in the 90s, and it was really, I think, started on my good friend Lynn. I did a ghost investigation, and part of my training was a little bit of past life regressions, but it's mostly the other stuff. But we were on a ghost investigation, and I was just asked the person who was organising it, may I do some past lives, because I just got my certificate. It was just framed, hanging on the wall, and I wanted to practice, and I got a little bit of an audience, which was really good. And then I was fascinated what people were coming up with. I was fascinated during the training what people were getting during their past lives. But I think it was then Lynn was booking me for an awful lot of events, Rita, several other people, which was lovely. But I think it was over lockdown that people got to know about me a little bit more, because a lot of the panel groups couldn't go out, and different panel groups were getting me on their shows, and I was conducting past lives with them, and some really interesting, very compelling past lives came out of that. So I've probably gone and answered that question in a very long roundabout way, but that's kind of how I got into doing it, basically.
Yeah. Lee says, Paul's past life, I've watched a lot of them, absolutely fascinating watch. I must admit they are fascinating.
Yes.
I think one will always stay in everyone's memory. That's the one with Kate Ray.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I know we sat watching that, and I thought, whoa, I want to give that a go. But Kate, we everyone heard that voice, didn't they?
They did. I didn't hear it at the time, and it was brought to my attention. For those that haven't seen it, it's on my YouTube channel, highlighted. It's Ghost Voice. It's the only 30-second video on my Past Life Regressions Paul Goddard YouTube channel. But I remember Lorian was the first person who brought it to my attention, and when she said about it, I thought, oh, it'll be interesting. And I thought perhaps I just shuffled in my seat. It was like some sort of shuffly type noise that you can interpret as being a spirit voice, because sometimes I've heard like certain noises on EVPs where somebody's moved their foot, and when you listen to it back, it actually sounds like a voice. But this, I was in the chair after a slightly different position where I am now. I was shuffling around in it, trying to do everything to recreate the voice, and I just couldn't recreate it. And it's we think it says tell her, the voice that comes through, when Kate's saying that she's in her 40s and she looks older than she should be. She said, I do definitely now feel very old. And it sounds like tell her. To begin with, I thought it might have said don't know or something, but to me, it's not 100%. It's definitely tell her. To me, it sounds like that, but it's to me, it's a voice. I can't see it being anything else, and it's not like a little noise that you can listen to. Or that could potentially be. When I listened to it back after, I thought, yeah, that's really captured something there. So when Lorien then sent the highlighted clip through to me, I was then probably waking every single person up that I know by sending, hey, look what we just captured. But yeah, delighted. But she has been getting an awful lot of activity in her home, and it was just myself and just Kate having the experience at the time. So where that voice came from, Kate was very still, not moving around or anything. So totally fascinating. So yeah, do check that out, people, if you haven't seen it yet.
Definitely. You want to jump in, Jane, with anything?
Well, I was just thinking about the experience that I've had today, actually, and I keep thinking, are these triggers? Are these, all these things about past life? Do we keep getting dropped clues? Do we keep getting little triggers that make us come back to the thinking about a previous life? Today, I've been to Osborne House, which is where Queen Victoria used to have as a summer house, and the children and all the family were there during the summer. And today I was there. Now, I've been coming to the Isle of Wight for 25 years. I first came here for my honeymoon back in 1998, I think it was. And I keep getting drawn back here. I keep, every so often I feel I have to return to this island. And it's only today that, some of the pieces of this jigsaw sort of fell into place, because I was at the house, and we walked down to the beach where she would have been with the, which was a private beach. We walked up to Swiss Cottage, which was like a playhouse really for the children. But there was this garden. And when I walked around the corner and seen this garden, I instantly felt I'd been there before. I recognised this garden. It felt so familiar to me. And yet I couldn't sort of place it. I couldn't do any personal work there because it was far too busy and there was lots of people around. So there was no rail really for me to sort of sit for quite a while and actually do what I do. And when I was sort of coming back to the thing, this the familiarity for this garden just kept playing over and over and over in my mind. And then all the things like, well, I've been coming here all this time. And, are these, do other people sort of feel this and sense this? I mean, in your experience, Paul, what do you think? I really feel that I once lived on this island, and I have been to that garden before.
Well, it's interesting you said, and before mentioning some of the other people that I've seen, that sounds something like if you wanted to, we could explore during a regression at some stage, see what information came out, if that's something you'd be happy to do, Jane. But I mean, the first live that somebody mentioned, that it's been mentioned to me several times before, was Jane Harris's experience that was done live on the HD Paranormal channel, and she had a past life in Scotland. Although her past life experience didn't too much resonate. Well, some resonated with her, but it was not like something, I really are going to go back to that time because I have a fascination with this time. But a real love of Scotland that Jane Harris has, and she does feel quite emotional when it is time to leave Scotland. And she has certainly attachment with that. But Steve Mulligan and somebody else recently, I think it was a client that had recently actually, but Steve Mulligan, he was somebody that he used to go on holiday quite a lot around Wales, and it's when he was in Llandudno. He before he had this regression, when he was a child on family holidays, he would say, "Oh, we just go down this alley to get to that place," and his mum would say, "Well, how do you know that?" And his past life regression was Sidney Sutcliffe, and he was in the First World War. He was a lieutenant in the Flying Corps, which my mistake for the press release sent off, because I said he was a flight lieutenant. And if you watch Steve Mulligan's past life regression, again, he never actually says he's a flight lieutenant. He just says he's a lieutenant, which was absolutely true for that time period. But he had a lot of childhood experiences being there. He wasn't born in Llandudno, but he moved to Llandudno at a young age, and his father Abraham did a lot of shows up and down the country, but particularly Llandudno being a holiday destination. His father was like an entertainer, and he remembers being on the side of the stage seeing his father. So and it's really interesting, because even recently, when they went back to re-explore after his past life, because they wanted to do that at some point, chose the windiest day ever they could possibly go to Llandudno, but they were going around trying to see if they could find like Sidney's name on the cenotaph, where his parents were buried, where Sidney's house was, and all these sort of memories sort of came back to him while he was there, thinking this seems very similar to him. But what was interesting, on his drive to what would have been where Sidney grew up, suddenly Steve says to Sharon, his girlfriend, we've got to turn left here, or was it right here? I can't remember, one or the other. And Sharon said, no, the sat-nav tells us to keep going. And then the sat-nav took them to completely the wrong place. Well, if they had listened to Steve's gut feeling in the begin with, it would have taken them right to the very street where Sidney Sutcliffe's house was. So for that's just fantastic when people have those sorts of experiences, and I find it very compelling. And I say I'm always an explorer, and I never push a belief on anybody or where it should be, but I find it very difficult to explain that connection with Llandudno and that life in any other terms apart from it being reincarnation.
Fascinating. Yeah. So do you think people?
It is.
Do you think people, when you do past life regression, do you think that people hope they're going to have an exciting past life? You know, whether there's someone well known or something like that. But I imagine the vast majority, they're just normal people. You know, when you did past life regression on me, I was just a minor.
Yes. Yeah, I'm
obviously, but
well, I think for anybody that has the experience, even if they do nothing, to actually experience it in their mind's eye, see themselves through the eyes of somebody else, is very fascinating for other people, for them to experience. And sometimes it's really not the most interesting experience at all. I mean, I had somebody who was a monk, and they really did nothing apart from praying, and his really exciting day was eating a delicious soup. That's as exciting as his favourite memory got to. But for him, when he came out of it afterwards, he was really delighted with it, although that he didn't really travel. It was in the monastery, it was just around there. He found it fascinating. Not really that particularly religious kind of person or anything like that, but that was the life that he was experiencing. I do get people that say, Jane's popped off now.
Jane's gone.
I've always loved the 1920s. I love the 1920s. I love the art that's around, particularly in French. When I had that movement, I think I'm going to go back there. And then they kind of were like a miner, in down the pits, or a chimney sweep or something, and it's got nothing to do with that life whatsoever. So sometimes people have a real fascination. But it tends to be most of the time not just a fascination, just a little bit more of a connection, like Steve Mulligan. It doesn't mean that if they're a fascination, they never go through to that life, but quite often it ends up surprising them quite considerably of where they go.
Yeah, she's back.
Indeed.
Back, sorry, I must have dropped out.
That's all right. You're way
You got
down.
me back.
Yeah, you're way down south, ain't you, Jane? They don't have good internet down south, do they?
Yeah, I'm as far south as you could probably go.
So, Paul, have you ever done past life regression on somebody, and it's been they were a famous person, or they've done something really, really famous?
No, I've had one or two on the Titanic, but But no, I've not had somebody famous. I can't remember the actress's name, but there was somebody who was, I thought, might have ended up being a famous actress, but in the end it ended up being that it just was quite normal. Nothing happened. They went to Hollywood, just a couple of bits of small pieces work.
Yeah.
And this is one of my really early ones, and then they basically died relatively unknown.
Right.
So I haven't yet. Would love to. But people have been doing it even longer than myself, because I started doing these in 2010. But even people that were doing it like in the 80s and 90s, they can always say they can count on one hand the really. I mean, I've had quite a few interesting ones, but like anybody who was of a particular note of person, they've done thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. And that's the trouble, that some people who are disbelieving in the past, I say, well, the trouble is everybody ends up being somebody famous, and that's just not the case. It's just the famous people are the ones that the television companies will go, I want to hear your story. So they're not really that noticeable. But I think that it's just nice anybody's story is told. And I think that there's so many famous people that we know about anyway, which I'd be delighted to, but it's just nice to know some of the hard-working people that have lived around the world, and just to know what their story's been about.
Yeah. Okay, Mandy's got a question for you, Paul. Can I ask Paul why someone regresses into someone's present life? I watched the one you did with Part and couldn't understand it.
Pat, I think that is. I mean, there's different theories. I mean, as I say, I'm an explorer. It can be, if it is like reincarnation, there is the thought that sometimes, like you have twins are born, that the soul splits, and that you get what's called a parallel life. So somebody is living one life, and their soul's kind of got on a parallel life, doing something else. That's just a theory. What they might have been tapping into the field and experiencing somebody else's life. Then it could also be. I mean, I like to think these things are genuine for people, but I'm always saying during my talks, I say it could be that it's a metaphor for somebody that you're picking up on. Sometimes you think maybe it could be that, and I think when you're dealing with the paranormal, a door will open, say, for example, and it can be spirit opening the door, but also as well, sometimes it can be a draft. So there's no real 100% way of going, this is definitely this, it's definitely 100% all the time. There's so many different variables that go into this work. But yeah, so it could be a lots of different things. It could be the parallel life, it could be tap into field, it could be a fantasy. But it was interesting that was playing out, but I only went to it being that year for that person, because if I went forward, I wouldn't be sure if the person, if it was a genuine person, if something quite negative was going to happen to them. I would think it would be not very moral for me to have it out there that this could happen to this person. So I just went to that lifetime in their timeline and stopped it at that point. So I really hope that's answered your question, Mandy. I don't really know, but there's plenty of theories.
Yeah. It's a big responsibility on you, isn't there?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, you make sure that somebody's happy throughout it. I'm always watching somebody's reactions. You can get what are called abreactions sometimes. Hello, which is that you suddenly get all the emotions from suggestion or like hidden memories, and people can get quite upset. Sometimes a bit of having that come through, not to the point where they've lost it, is good if people are coming to you for healing. So if somebody said, I've got a phobia of water, it gets found out that in a past life they drowned. Sometimes experiencing some of those emotions are helpful, but I certainly won't let it so it goes to a really bad stage, I would just I'm always watching them. When I'm doing the lives, I tend to cut it even earlier than I would do if I was doing healing work, because it depends if somebody's coming to me for healing or whether they're coming to me for having a good time and getting what they want to experience. And if somebody comes just for interest's sake, I don't want them to be feeling, blood with tears, even though it might be healing. But I always really make sure what people want out of the session. To begin with. I mean, sometimes I sort of say, if it gets too bad, I'll take you out of it. And I have heard people go, "Oh no, I want to have a good cry and gnash my teeth." But well, each to their own.
Let's bring Jane in before she goes flitting off again. Hello, Jane.
I've actually come outside the caravan. I thought it might help the signal because I've got 4G, but I think it might, because it's in a metal box, isn't it? I thought if I come outside, it'll probably help the signal.
Oh, so you've kicked Vince inside now, then?
Picked him off the edge of the cliff.
So do you have a question for Paul? No.
Well, I'm just so interested in this subject. With people experiencing these sort of things. Do you think more and more people are starting to sort of wake up to the possibility that everybody's got a past life, and that they could find some answers by meeting people like yourself?
I think so, and I think now, and this is what I think and feel, and please let me know if people feel differently, but I think for the majority of religions, because I spoke to people who are Christian and they're still interested to know in past lives, so I think that it's not just a very focused, this is it, there's no such thing as reincarnation. I think people are more willing to explore now and see different sides of things. And I think when I start explaining that there can be also different reasons why people experience the past, and if like genetic memory is one of those, so that's like the memory passes down through the gene line, which kind of makes sense to a point, except if they're like in their 80s or 90s and they pass away, then if it was through the gene line, that wouldn't have come through to somebody by that point because that part of their life hadn't happened. But maybe you're tapping in some sort of field, etc. So I find with this subject, more and more, the more you do it, the more questions you end up having. You don't really have that many answers. You end up having more questions, which, to be honest, I quite like that, and I quite like a bit of mystery and wonder in the world anyway. But yeah, I think that more people are sort of waking up to it. I mean, there's very few people now that are dead against it. Just occasionally, and I'm talking very, very occasionally, you might get somebody on one of my YouTube channels that really doesn't like it and say I'm dealing with something quite dark and there's a little place in hell waiting for me. But you know what it's like, Neil, people saying these things, and I just ignore it, and I know that if you do stuff, if you do your work with the clients with a good heart and the right intentions, then I don't think you can go too badly wrong, really.
No, that's the most important word in this field. Your intention. If your intention is right, you're not doing too bad. Because we've received criticism because some of the things that we do, but our intent is for good.
Yes.
She's
Hello. Sorry, I keep dropping out. In and out like a fiddler's elbow.
Well, okay. Stephanie's got a question, Paul. How far can you regress, and how many times have people lived? Also, what makes you regress to that particular moment in time?
Well, when I do my regression, I say, there's different inductions that I do. My favourite one, and taking people through to a past life, is to see a corridor, and each of the corridors, each of the doors leading off either side will be an experience to a past life. There's other ways of doing it as well. I like that one because people really choose a door that they're going to go through. There's other ways that you have mists of time, and people see that disappear. You can drop people out of the sky straight into a past life. Sometimes there's other ones with deck of cards. But I get people to choose whichever method I use to go to that life which is most meaningful to them and they want to experience. It's quite interesting when you do the door method. Sometimes people go through a door and they can't see anything, and then they come out and choose another door, and then they experience a past life. There's a theory that's put past many people that have seen these, says it could be potentially a life you haven't had yet. It depends who you speak to, how many lives you have. I certainly know some teachers say hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of lives. When I've asked people in the chair, it tends to be between 6 and 12 lives, around that sort of. That's what I ask people. So I tend to go with what comes from somebody's higher self, rather than what I've heard other people say, and that seems to resonate with me about the right amount of lives. I mean, some people say they only see one door, and other people say I see more doors. So yeah, it's sort of interesting. So it'd be interesting to know what other people think about that one.
It's all fascinating, though, isn't it? Because none of us know the answers, and like you said earlier, the more questions, the more times you do it, the more questions you get, and that's
exactly
what makes it more interesting to me. I'm sure it does to Jane as well. Now she's here. Are you with us, Jane?
I think Jane's with us, but I don't know if she can hear what we're saying.
She's with us in a picture.
Sorry.
You're here.
Yeah, my signal keeps dropping in and out.
Well, you've been called a screen hopper, Jane. And you've been called a lot worse than that, haven't you? She can't hear us, I don't think. Yeah, I agree. We do investigations up here at the centre, and if you leave the night,
I've been called worse. Yeah,
slow the uptake there. If you leave
I can hear you at the minute.
If you leave the evening with more questions than you had when you started, to me that's a good night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, I totally agree with you there, and I'm sure this time next year I'll probably have even more questions.
Yeah, definitely. So can you hear me properly, Jane?
I think Jane can hear you. I think there's a time delay for about 20 to 30 seconds, so she'll answer us in a second.
Yeah, and I should forget what I asked her.
Because I can hear you at the minute.
There's a long delay though, Jane.
It reminds me when you used to get the people in the space station.
Yeah,
you know, you used to have people in the space station, and your newsreader would ask.
The screen keeps freezing a bit.
All right. Sorry. There's a long delay, Jane. No.
Okay.
So, Jane, do you want to go out then come back, see if we can cut the delay out?
Okay.
Well, that was quite a lot quicker this time. It seemed to have worked itself out.
Oh, never mind. Technology, eh?
Yes, indeed, yeah. But, you know, I like it when things go like this, though. It makes it more interesting and fun. So,
how did we manage before we had mobile phones and the internet?
Absolutely. You know, I mean, it was sort of phone calls. I mean, before my time, it was you would go to the call box and phone somebody up. So synchronized watches. You need to be in this phone box at this time. I'm going to phone this number.
Yeah, that's right, though, isn't it? I remember that when I was younger. We had to go to the public phone box in the village. Are you with us now, Jane?
Yes, I think so. All
right, we're in time. Okay, let's get your. You got a comment while we're still here?
I'll probably miss the last 10 minutes about what you've been talking about.
We're talking about leaving an investigation or doing something, and you leave with more questions than answers than when you started. That's a good thing, isn't it?
I do. Yeah, I think today is definitely generated so many more questions for me, because I've done, as you know, I've done one past life, which I think was my earliest life, and since then I've become aware of probably 2 or 3 more lives that I've had in the past. And I think once you start it, then I think the spirit world is very easy then to open things up to you when you're ready. Like today, I think they throw you, or over probably the last few years, they throw you little bits, and then of the jigsaw, and then things come together, and then all of a sudden, you get a bigger piece, and lots of things fall into place, and that's the trigger, I think, where you then want to find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else just came to my head there, thinking about when you learn more, is I often find the more people go into hypnosis, and it's something that other hypnotherapists have mentioned as well. Each time people go into hypnosis, it goes a little deeper each time. Because I did an event, the Eerie Escapes, this weekend, and there were people there that didn't really get an awful lot in their regression last time they were on one of these events, but this time they got a lot more information, and I think they all got a better night's sleep, but also as well, because they've been through the experience before, they were able to get better information. And again, I mentioned strange but true, and one of the cases they had of a soldier, the first time he had a regression, it was very just very sketchy, little bits of information coming out, but the more he did it, the more deeper he was going into hypnosis, the more easier it was to, at the end, the hypnotist was basically having a conversation with the subject, as if he was just recalling like memories in this life, which can happen with myself as well when I've done them. But it just sort of shows that so maybe if somebody's not sure and a bit concerned, it might be a little bit sketchy here and there. I mean, I sell CDs and MP3s, so I'll always be delighted if people go for one of my CDs or MP3s. But if you do like some hypnosis listening to on the CDs, only when you can safely relax, don't play it in the car and anything, although you do hear people that do that, even though you put the warning at the beginning of it. It allows you to get used to the hypnotic process, start getting the visualizations, and then you can really dig and get a lot of information out of the past life from that.
Yeah, okay. Leanne says, I've had my spirit guides show me a couple of my past lives, but I've never done regression, but always wanted to. And while Bill from the USA said, I would love to find someone to do past life regression on me, it could prove to be interesting or even scary. Well, I reckon getting in your head, Bill, would be a bit scary.
Well, I mean, I do regressions over the internet as well, because I did yours over the internet. And it was something I didn't really think about doing. It was lockdown, and it was Tim from Ghosted UK said to me, can you do the regression live? And I thought, I've never done it before. Let's just see what happens. And it was like, actually, this works really well. So from then, it was good, because I knew that I could do them pretty much just as well within person as I can do, when they come to me in the chat. I think there is a couple of advantages of people seeing me here. There's a time delay. You get to see the expressions a little better than you can do on screen. But on the whole, I've got some phenomenal results from doing the regressions online. I mean, Steve Mulligan, which is one of the most compelling ones. There's also been other compelling ones as well online, but that was done online. So I think that as long as you're happy to relax, let go, then you can do them online.
Yeah. While Bill says maybe I should go live and have to do mine. If you
absolutely.
If you want to contact Paul, Bill, I'm sure Paul will arrange something, and I think Leanne would be interested as well.
Thanks, Leanne. Thanks, Bill.
Just message Paul Goddard. You'll find him on Facebook and YouTube and everywhere.
Yeah, got my YouTube, got my website, paulgoddardnlp.co.uk. You can find me on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. look out for my happy smiling face, and you can just reach out to me as well. And if anyone has any questions, I'm always happy to just answer questions. So I'm not one of these people who do the hard sell. I just let people know what it is and hope they book, but there's never a hard sell through me.
Yeah, it's Paul Goddard, Bill. I will send you a link later, Bill, because I know you.
And I'm sure a lot of people, if they can't get to the Parameet and see Paul in person, they will be able to watch Paul from the Parameet, see his talk on screen anyway, won't they? On the GPN network.
Yeah, like we said earlier, I am going to film all the talks this year. That's primarily so the vendors can watch, because they were so busy last year that they didn't get a chance to get off the tables. So the vendors can watch live, but then all the recordings will go on GPN, possibly during the week afterwards. Also, we've got somebody going around all day, both days, filming, taking pictures and talking to people. We've got Steve Higgins from Higgy Pop interviewing people, everybody. I'm imagining he's going to interview all the speakers as well, like he did last year, Paul. So there's going to be lots of photographs from this year. It's something we didn't do enough of last year, I think, because I just didn't think about that. So there'll be lots of videos and lots of photos coming onto GPN. That's where all our stuff is going from now on. Obviously, we'll be happy to have your videos on GPN, Paul, if you are ever interested.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'd be delighted to. Yeah, I'll see what I can set up there. Most definitely. Yes,
Brilliant.
please.
Yeah, brilliant. So, any more questions, Jane? While your signal must be quite strong now. You're not zapped out for a bit.
Yeah, I seem to be doing all right at the minute.
Oh.
Do you think that more and more people will be sort of more open-minded to this in the future? You know, having that connection with their past selves, having the connection, say, with spirit. Do you think more and more people are now becoming more open-minded to it?
I think so. I mean, we'll know when it happens, but I think there is a growing open-mindedness. I certainly noticed that there's a growing open-mindedness to various other things in the spiritual fields, like crystals, meditating, and you know, if you go back to like the 60s and 70s, even the 80s, you're just more like the sort of hippie or like a druid type person if you're going to be interested in any of these things. But now you see people giving TED Talks, writing books about the power of meditation and connecting to your spiritual self. And I think more people are becoming more open to discussing these things now. I know from wonderful lady Caroline Bliss, who's a actress, most people know her as Miss Moneypenny in the Timothy Dalton James.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we lost Paul now. The spirits are messing with the internet tonight. We've lost Paul now.
It's not just me then.
Oh, was that me that dropped out then, or was that?
That's you then, Paul. Are you back with us?
I am back with you. I don't know what happened there. Sorry about that. Yeah, so it's about Caroline Bliss, Miss Moneypenny. Terence Stamp is a very spiritual person, and I think that I think that these people that are quite well known will become more open. I think when more well known people start talking about spirituality, possibly past lives or the paranormal, I think it helps other people to go, I'm more interested in that. And I think things come and go in waves. And I believe that so many of us are on Facebook these days, scrolling, and for a lot of people, their life is just on their mobile phones. And I think that there'll come a point when we've done enough of it and start moving away from that again, and maybe connecting with others in a different way. Maybe, we'll see.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I was quite interested in your point you made about the 60s and...
Go on.
Sorry, Oh,
No, you carry
okay.
on.
That's all right. I thought I dropped out again.
No.
I was quite interested in the point you made about the 60s and 70s. And back then, people used use a lot of psychedelics, didn't they? So,
They did,
there seems to be a bit of a revival as well, using psychedelics spiritually. And we know, like, a lot of the native tribes used to use psychedelics to speak to the ancestors and stuff like that. Do you think there's any room for psychedelics with past life history, past life regression?
Well, if I was to suggest people come and take psychedelics and then do a past, I would probably get into quite a bit of trouble. But I do really like, I do really like Kate and Neil Rushton. He said actually that what the past life regression that I did, and particularly when he was in the life between lives moment, was very much like an experience of taking psychedelics, so much like that it was pretty much like it. So possibly, it's up to each individual person whether they do that, but I don't. For a business point of view, I'd have to be very careful with what I use. I think I'll stick to hypnosis. You can have coffee if you come to see me, though. Nice coffee. I've got cappuccinos, nice Tazimo machine.
Bill says, love a good mushroom.
Yes.
Of course. Well, Bill can remember the 60s and 70s in America.
Yeah.
That's soaking eye, unfortunately. Also, while Bill says we'll have to set up a past life regression for him.
Yeah, that'd be really good.
So
yes.
we'll sort that out, and he says get it on GPM, which I'm sure with Paul's permission we will do.
Of course, yeah.
Because I am looking at starting to do live streaming on GPN as well. We've not done any yet. So I'm just going to sort it out. I don't know what we're going to do first. Me and Jen are going to talk about that because I've got an idea, but we'll see. But yeah, I think getting your past life regressions on GPM would be fantastic. Get you out even more, hopefully. And help
thank you. I've got a few.
I've
got a feeling of what I could do with that. So once we finish live, I'll make a suggestion there.
Yeah, brilliant. So any more questions, Jane, while you're here?
Oh,
I've put you on the spot.
When's Paul next coming to the centre?
Well, hopefully sometime soon. In fact, it'd be interesting to see if people would love to do it. I'd like to do, if possible, a workshop there at some point. That would be quite a good thing if people want to do that. So yeah, I'll have a chat to you about that. But yeah, I'd love to be back because I truly loved my experience at the centre, and thank you, Jane, for being such a wonderful host and showing us around.
It was a great day. I really enjoyed it. It was no trouble at all. It was a good day.
I'm finishing off Carl Morris, which is taking forever. He's a professional pool player, documentary from one of my other YouTube channels. Then after that, it's back on to finishing off all the stuff that we filmed together. So there's some great footage there. The sound came out really well. And on my Paul Goddard paranormal channel, there's a bit of an interview with Jane. But I also did another one for a little secret one as well for a couple of people that sort of helped me out with some of the expenses. But
cool.
I'm really looking forward to doing that.
Yeah. Lee says, excuse me, pretty sure they are experimenting with DMT in the sense of the place. People seems to be the same for everybody, and they are trying to map it out via experiments.
Interesting. I'll have to try and read some of those, and I'll have to have a real good chat with Neil Rushton about that as well at some point.
Yeah. Leanne says, "Oh, I'd love a workshop." Emma says, "I'd love to attend a workshop." So I think that would go down well here. Bill says, "Need to run." He's got to get the boss's tea probably. We'll see you soon, Bill. Thanks for tuning
Bill.
in. Then he says mushrooms are legal in the USA now. Well,
Paul, do you have sort of any sort of inkling where people? Because my belief is, the spirit comes into the body. Then when that body dies, the spirit then goes back to the spirit world. In the book of Enoch, he talks about this special place where the souls are sort of kept waiting to go into their next bodies and that sort of thing. Do you have any clues or any sort of inkling of where the soul might go in between lives? From your past, from people's experiences, have you come across any clues or any inkling where that sort of spirit may go in between, waiting in between the lives that it lives?
Are you still there, Paul? I think Paul's gone out again. Yeah, he's frozen. No, Paul's frozen now.
Oh, I'm glad it's not just me.
I've been okay. What can I say?
Oh, you've probably got Wi-Fi. I've got no Wi-Fi at all. I'm just going on 4G at the minute.
Yeah, I'm actually about 3 feet away from the router, so
You feel right then.
if I can't get it, I'm really struggling. Paul's shot out for a minute, so we'll talk about. I have had an interesting morning today. No one knows. I've put on Facebook that I'm doing an investigation, but no one knows what I did apart from you, Jane, and Julie. Obviously, both gone now. Oh, we're back.
I'm still here.
It's weird. It's playing up. Yeah. He Paul's back.
Sorry about this. I was just running to get another laptop. It's just completely dropped out the internet. Right. Is that okay? Am I on? Can you hear me, see me okay?
Yeah.
We can hear and see you, Paul.
Phew. Book of Enoch, so I got that far.
Yeah, so in the book of Enoch, he sort of tells of a place where all the spirits' souls are sort of kept while they're waiting to go into their next life, if you like. I mean, have you had any sort of clues or inkling as to where the soul or the spirit goes in between the lives of people?
Well, when I conduct the regressions, I am really, really careful that I don't lead a client. I'll talk about leading later. So when I've done the regressions, it's very much like, I've forgotten the researcher's name, but it tends to be what I've experienced, that it's more feelings that people get during that time, and they don't really have body functions, but sort of sense like the feeling of love and peace around. It's something actually I'm going to do a bit more of life between lives, but when you do like a past life regression, you can say to them, right, now go to the age of 30 and what you're doing at that age, and then people experience that, and then 40, and then etc., or choose a name somewhere in between there. And I find that when people have gone past the death experience, most of the time they go, it's blank, I can't see anything anymore. Then you take them back to their last moments. But I'm going to do a bit of experimentation, which is something I'm setting up after. So if you want to get involved, that's nice too. But
I would love to.
do groups and see what people experience more with the life between lives, because it's a lot of feeling, a lot of understanding from the lives there. But last thing I want to do is I just say go forward, move back in the lives, and then quite often, not too long, they've jumped through to another life then after. But you don't want to sort of say during a regression, now do you meet anybody of significance, or do you come across any lives? Because when people are in hypnosis, they are incredibly suggestible, and you can actually end up planting those suggestions in somebody and they experience that. So yeah, I'm going to do a lot more with the life between lives and create my own way of doing it. Talking about inappropriate leading, because I like reading a lot of books on hypnosis, because I'm always one of those people that think you can never not learn anything with it. You've always got an opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop new skills. But it was Roy Hunter, he wrote a book. He was talking about doing regressions with people, and in that he was talking about one hypnotist that was very fascinated in the UFO phenomena, Now, Roy, he had a near-death experience when he was a child and saw a white light. Went to one of these hypnotists, because he's always thinking he's like to experiment and learn more in hypnosis. Went to a hypnotist who believed in UFOs, and I love UFO phenomena as well, actually. But when he saw the light coming, Roy Hunter, this hypnotherapist, said to him, "Now go through the light and let me know if you see a UFO there." And that suggestion was planted. He went through the light, saw a UFO, orbited the Earth, had several experiments done, and then was replaced back down. Later on, many years later, he had another regression with a hypnotherapist who didn't do any lead-in, and it was more of a traditional near-death experience, meeting your guides or angels. That experience is what he had. So I tend to just add, I would go move forward, move back. What is very interesting, it has come up several times though.
No. Just getting to an exciting bit. Come back.
Paul's froze again. It says Paul Goddard is amazing.
We're okay.
You're back.
I am back. I've got another laptop and I'm literally thinking, should I change this just to see if it's like cutting out for some reason? So if it does it one more time, would you like me to do that and just swap the laptops over and see what happens?
You can do.
Yeah, okay. Hopefully we've got it in this time.
Okay.
So yeah, it's saying I'm in the signal tonight actually. So yeah, but people tend to experience jumping through a funnel, and some of the children that have had the spontaneous past lives, they say things like, I jumped through a hole and then I was here. So that's really interesting that quite a lot of people have experienced that. And also what I find very interesting is when you speak to people, if I was to ask most people what's a near-death experience like, probably a lot of people would say a light in a tunnel. I actually find a lot more people when they're doing the regression, they actually say they've experienced themselves floating up out of where they are and then seeing themselves looking down, and that happens probably about 90% of the time. So a lot more during the death experience, people will experience that instead. So it's quite interesting that that's the case.
Fascinating. Jane, you here? You still with us? Any questions?
Yeah.
Any final questions? Only a couple of minutes left.
Oh, I could talk all night to Paul.
Thank you.
We're going up hours. I just find the topic just totally fascinating, because even then when Paul's talking about the holes and the doorways, I do believe from my own experience that as a person passes, they talk about sort of seeing the light and that sort of thing. Recently when my sister passed away, I had a very similar experience, and I could feel that doorway, I could feel that sort of hole going back to the spirit world. And that's what I firmly believe that's her doorway back. But that's the different, that's all sort of focusing on my article for the next Haunted Live magazine.
I have to make sure I get a copy of that.
Have you ever written for the Haunted magazine, Paul?
No, I'd love to. So I'll have to write something. I did appear in 14 Times a couple of issues back. Yeah. But yeah, I'd love to do Haunted magazine. It's an excellent magazine. I know people that write for it, brilliant writers. Yeah. The people that run it are friendly, truly passionate about their work. So yes, I'll have a good chat to them at Power Meet, because are they going to be there this year?
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course they are.
I'll make sure I have a good chat with them, and won't leave until they say yes, you can write one.
No, seriously, they will say yes. Paul is a nutter. But not you.
You can't make tea.
I know.
Paul Stevenson is a nutter. His jokes, the old ones are the best.
Right.
Don't ask him to make you a cup of tea.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
He's not very good. He comes here every other week, doesn't he, Jane? And Jane will say, "Do you want a drink?" He says things like, "I'll have black coffee with milk."
Right.
And that confuses us straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But Paul and Andy are two fantastic guys, and the Haunted magazine is an amazing magazine. And I'm honoured to be called them, to class them as friends now. So they've been good supporters of us since the start, haven't they, Jane? So unfortunately, we've come to the end.
Yeah.
That hour went so quick. It's good when we got lots to talk about. We like Jane said, she could talk to you all night, Paul.
Oh, thank you, and likewise with you both as well.
I feel like I've been doing a bit of quantum leaping.
Yes,
absolutely.
I'm going to
You have been in and out a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I started popping in and out after a while, so I'm gonna tomorrow I get in contact with the people that just so I can look at my computer and make sure, because it's been absolutely fine. It seems to be when I've done StreamYard a couple of times recently, it seemed to have popped in and out. But yeah, I'll have a good look what that's all about.
Perhaps that StreamYard though, because I don't know. Perhaps there's better ways.
Yeah. Oh no, it's good StreamYard.
There's bugs in it.
Yeah. Sorry.
There's bugs in it.
Spiritual bug.
StreamYard.
Yeah, I think
bugs
so.
In
absolutely.
So we're going to say thank you to everyone that's commented and watched tonight. It's always good talking to Paul because he's a great guy. His past life regression. He's done it once on me. It was amazing, fantastic experience. And you're there all weekend at the Power Meet this weekend.
So I'm doing my talk, and then I'm going to be there to enjoy the rest of the experience.
Yeah. So if you want to have a chat to Paul directly, come to Power Meet.
If you've not got your tickets yet.
Actually, I've sold the last few days. I've sold loads and loads of tickets. It's going to be manic.
Good.
It's going to be good, but manic, and that's what we want. So we're going to say good night to everybody, and we will see you very soon.
Yes. Good night, Paul. Good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.